Welcome to this week's Âtrium X Space. Today we have two great guests joining us. We have Ryan Jones joining us from NEWM, the premier music streaming platform on Cardano, and Andrew Westberg as well. Andrew works for both NEWM, Moneta, and Drip Drops as well. And Peyton, of course, is also joining us. Hey, Peyton. Hey, Andrew. How are you doing?
Hello, hello. I'm doing really good. I just had my second double shot of espresso for the day, and I'm excited to get started. I did want to say something, though. EST time zone changed from 11. It's 12 EST now. So we got to figure that out. Are we going to keep doing 11 EST or are we 12 EST now? But good to see both of you. Hi, Andrew.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Andrew. Yeah, I also noticed as well the markets in the US were opening at a different hour. So yeah, we still have to figure that one out. So we have NEWM joining as well. I assume that's Ryan. Hey there. Is that you, Ryan?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Hey, welcome.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. How are you doing today? Doing well?
I am coming to you guys from my desktop, so I get to use my fun microphones and things.
You sound a
Great
lot
to hear.
fancier than we do.
Means we're doing something right. I'm a musician. If I don't, I'd be kind of disappointed.
Awesome. So the way that we've been, starting these spaces off is with a little bit of crypto news. As more people join in, and eventually we're going to get to what you guys are building over at NEWM. But we did have some news come out today about an investment into Moneta by the Hoskinson Family Fund. I wanted to ask you, Andrew. I know that you've helped out, Moneta a lot in the background on the tech side. What is your position over there at Moneta?
I run all of the tech for them. I'm the CTO at Moneta, and my job right now is working really hard to get retail minting up and going, and then also now that the investment has come in, finding and hiring a lot of good people. So that's kind of what my role is there right now.
Yeah, when I saw that, it was really exciting news for my opinion. A lot of us have been fighting, to try to get USDC on the chain or USDT on the chain, and it's become evident to me at least that it would be best for us to just, put our resources and our effort into homegrown options, by the community, local stablecoins, as you will. And congratulations on that investment.
Yeah, thanks. A lot of people don't necessarily know, so I'll share it again. We do already have the ability to onboard to USDM through USDC or USDT. It's more of a white glove solution right now. So, we have to manually walk you through that process versus the banking one. But yeah, the retail beta mint is open. So you can go to moneta.global to sign up for that. If you're in one of the states we support. Yeah, but I think we're here to talk about NEWM mostly today. So we should probably not spend too much time on that announcement.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we usually kind of cover a host of topics. We're just trying to make good content for people each week. But yeah, let's. What other news do we have this week, Stephen? We can keep running through the news, and we can get started on NEWM.
Yeah, there were some the very much hyped crypto summit and the Bitcoin reserve and a digital asset stockpile news was in the last week between our spaces. So yeah, I'm not sure what to think of it. It was I mean, it's a good evolution, but Yeah, I think it was maybe hyped a bit too much, and expectations were a bit too high, probably, about the U.S. government buying loads of, crypto assets and engaging actively in all of these different blockchains. But yeah, it turned out it's a bit more of a conservative approach, let's say.
Yeah, especially it's crazy how wild or how fast the crypto news cycle moves, because it feels like that news was ages ago, honestly. But yeah, Trump tweeted out he's going to put ADA, ETH, or no, really ADA, Solana, and XRP in the stockpile, and then tweets and Bitcoin and ETH afterwards. So yeah, it seemed a bit rushed. It got everybody excited, pumped the markets for a little bit, and now we've stabilized back to normal. So definitely interesting times. What do you think, Ryan? I see you unmuting your mic there.
Yeah, no, it was interesting seeing David Sachs kind of not necessarily walk back, but definitely slow roll some of those tweets. It was really interesting. I don't know. I think it's a for the price go up crowd, I think it's a net positive. For the altruists of the crypto world, I don't think the cypherpunks are necessarily what's the word I'm looking for here? Ecstatic necessarily about it. So it's very interesting. I think all the OGs are probably not even in the space at this point. They've done what they're gonna do. So I think it's interesting to see what people's priorities are in the space and what they consider success and all the things. So I do think it's really nice that they'll be adding BTC and thinking of that as now as a reserve asset.
Yeah, when I saw the news, I actually had a different take. I was excited to see it because, not only because of price go up. I think the price go up crowd had a bit of a bad rep. It's especially when it comes to Cardano. We have this treasury with, a billion plus ADA. And the higher the price of ADA goes, the more that can be done in the real world to develop the chain or develop products that are living on the chain, right? So the price go up crowd has won me over just a little bit, at least in the past couple of years. Whereas before I was more, it's about the tech, da da da. But I think that we can build larger teams, as the price goes up. And my big worry was, a strategic reserve launching with, just, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana, or in XRP, or just, I think that, Cardano really does hold a lot of those cypherpunk values, very close compared to other blockchains. And, seeing Cardano get added in, made me excited in that sense of like, oh, there's a real, even though the government is here meddling, I always expected them to come in and meddle, at least, one of the blockchains that holds those values, close, Cardano and Bitcoin, made it into this reserve. And, XRP and Solana aren't really artificially getting pushed to the top, at least while other ones are. So, interesting times. Go ahead,
Well,
Ryan. Sorry.
I will say this though, as a builder, having that tweet go out, I don't know what it's going to do about price, and then I mean, that's secondary. But I can say, I do think as a builder, building on Cardano, it makes our life easier whenever we are showing people what we've built, and I think it just adds validity. Now, because up until this point, it's been, oh, you're building on Cardano. Have you considered instead building on X chain? To which we always have to respond, well, no, actually, because the tech stack works on Cardano. There's a purpose. There's a reason why we built on this chain. And I think now we'll see conversations turn to, oh, okay, you're building on Cardano. So I think that's going to be a net positive for any builders on the chain.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Was it last year or the year before we went to an investor conference in LA that was kind of an ETH thing? And we got so many questions that was just why Cardano? And so we got the opportunity to educate them on, how we have fixed low fees, so you know what your fees for any transaction are going to be. You know, we talked about kind of the scientific, methodical approach, the blockchain, very few issues, hacks, uptime is great. You know, we could really make a very good case for why Cardano. At the time, it was still like, yeah, but you don't have any adoption. Well, now it's like we've been mentioned by the most powerful person on the planet, arguably, and you know, kind of everybody knows our name now, and they should dig a little bit deeper, even if we're not in any strategic reserves, even if we're not in anything else. Like I feel like we've earned the right to be taken seriously now.
That's such
Yeah,
a
I
great
agree.
point.
Yeah, I agree. It's I was surprised to see the ADA in there, because I was not expecting it actually. But it's nice to get the recognition. And I also saw a tweet from someone from CF saying that interest in Cardano from investors and VCs has also started picking up, which is also great to hear. Again, for builders like we are all here, it's nice to see the interest in Cardano, because it has been tough, you know, building something on Cardano and surviving. So great, great to hear. Something else that a lot of our users might find interesting and welcoming is that MinSwap dropped their batcher fees this week. So that's a nice plus for everyone doing trades on MinSwap. So fees are reduced by, I think it was 2 ADA, and especially if you're doing smaller trades, that does make an interest, make a difference in yeah, return on the tokens that you're getting. So it's always nice to see.
That is nice to see. Always happy to see lower fees on Cardano, and I think as we start to see you know, more liquidity come in, as we just got our you know, orange man check mark, you know, as more liquidity comes in, you know, we'll also see some lower fees on MinSwap. So looking forward to it.
Especially for any high volume traders too, that adds up.
Definitely. Yeah, and you know, a lot of the, you know, volume looking at other layer one blockchains is you know, from bots. You know, it's from people kind of trading back and forth, you know, using trading bots and, you know, market makers. And, you know, if you have huge fees, you know, that's a big barrier to entry for some of these market makers, you know, coming into our ecosystem. So good news. Nice job, MinSwap.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe we can jump into NEWM. So Ryan or Andrew, maybe you can give us a short TLDR of NEWM and what you guys are building or have built already. It's you've been going on for a while, of course. Yeah, it's just to get our audience up to speed.
Yeah, I'll take that away. Quick and dirty. We are building / have built parts of a decentralized music ecosystem. That's the very high level, but we have a couple of pillars and important tools in the toolbox that we think make the system work. One of which we have 2 marketplaces out, which one is for music collectibles, so music NFTs, which is the record store, and then we have another marketplace for music IP. Currently, there are stream tokens, so streaming IP royalties that are available for purchase. So those are 2 stores open, and then we also have a mobile app for consumption of music NFTs, and those are available in both iOS as well as Android native apps. And so those are available for download now. They're both live. Android's been live for a long time, if anybody's wondering. iOS just released a couple weeks ago. And then the cornerstone product for us, which is making all of this possible, is our music DSP service, which is a music distribution service. Long and short, musicians, when they create music, they have to use a service to get their music from their computer onto the streaming platforms. And so there's no way for them to just go and directly to a streaming platform and put their music on it. That's not how it works. You have to use a third party. And so we built a Web3 version of a music distribution service. And in that, it allows basically all the stuff, regular Web2 stuff. So they get to put their music out on 130 plus streaming platforms, all the big ones that everybody knows as well, with the added benefit that their royalties or streaming royalties are tokenized. And then that way they're able to fractionalize them, which makes for fun DeFi plays in the Web3 world. So those are the overall products, and all four of those are live right now. Let me just point that out. So the distribution service, the two mobile apps, and both marketplaces are live. As an artist, you can go and distribute your music right now. You don't have to ask permission. You can go and do it. And as a consumer, you can go and see music that is up for sale, whether that be collectibles or actual IP streaming tokens. Those are all live right now, and that's a very quick overview of NEWM, where it's currently at. And we can talk about future stuff here in a bit, but that is the overarching theme, unless Andrew wants to add anything to it.
Sorry, couldn't find that unmute button. Yeah, the only thing I would add to that is that NEWM doesn't always get talked about when people are talking about RWAs or real world assets, but we really should be talked about in those circles. I think RWAs will be one of the big narratives this cycle. And when you're talking about something like streaming IP royalty rights, that is something that does exist in the legacy world. It's done with paper and signatures, and with the new system, it's done with tokenization and decentralization.
We were doing RWAs before it was sexy to do RWAs.
It's you really got me thinking with that Andrew, just comparing, it's essentially stating and pointing out the fact that, music is a real world asset. And I would go as far to say that it's almost an asset that's, consumed, very often compared to some of the RWAs that you're seeing listed on sites. If you think about, gold being an RWA, or some of these natural resources being an RWA, I would almost imagine that, music is one of the most consumed RWAs by individuals, in the world.
It's actually a $1 trillion market. The amount of money that flows through different types of music IP and generation of wealth, it's literally, the music industry is over $1 trillion market. It's ridiculous.
And you mentioned that, if you want to get your music listed on Spotify, like, you can't just go on there and post it. Is there essentially, a middleman company that's sitting there in the way to kind of extract value from the artist, I'm guessing?
Well, that's so funny you mentioned that. Yes. And there's a couple. I don't need to name them. Musicians know what they are. But the general gist is, you either have to pay every year to keep your music distributed. That's one business model. So they make you pay every year, and then you get to keep all of your music IP, your streaming IP. The other model is they'll let you pay one time for it to go up forever. However, they take, I think, almost 8% of your streaming IP for the benefit of keeping it up forever. Those are Web2 models, and with us, I can tell you, we are you pay once and you get to keep all of your IP.
Yeah, there's actually a third business model where you pay once, and you either pay yearly to keep it up, or for a particular song, you pay like an extra $29 for that song, and then it can stay up forever. It's called like the legacy plan or something. But yeah, our system, it's you pay once and then your stuff is distributed forever.
And you get to keep everything.
Yeah, I think as far as if you're comparing it to RWAs, I think it'd be most similar to like I mean, the returns are not going to be the same, but it's similar to like a dividend paying stock, because just holding the stream tokens in your wallet is enough to earn NEWM royalties if that song earns streaming royalty rights or earn streaming royalties. They get paid out to whoever holds those stream tokens for the song. So it itself is valuable, the stream token itself, but then also it does get kind of a little dividend as streaming royalties come in.
Yeah. So it's generating you income essentially, basically, right? So by just strictly, so like Peyton, prime example, like if you have a piece of music that you really like to listen to, if you could own some stream tokens in it on that song, every time you listen to it on the streaming platform, you would essentially be paying yourself as you listen to it, which is kind of cool if you think about it. So, and that's just with streaming IP. And I will say on the RWA standpoint, you mentioned physical RWAs, right? So like gold, there's a problem. There's an inherent problem with those, and that is there has to be some trusted custodian of the asset. And what happens if either A, the infrastructure can't pay for the the custody of the assets in the real world, or B, the custodian turns out to be nefarious, and then the asset disappears. That is real issues with RWAs. Whereas with us specifically, this music IP has always been a digital quote ephemeral item, right? And so all it is legal contracts. And when you mint with us, our stream tokens, they have the token agreement that's minted on chain. So you don't need to trust a third party to keep the contract or keep the documentation around. It's on the chain. So the only way it goes away is if the layer one disappears, which I don't think Cardano is going to disappear, which is another reason why we picked that as our layer one. So that's just another part of that equation that I think makes us specifically unique when it comes to RWAs. I think there's actual less risk associated with this type of an RWA than say gold or anything like that.
You bringing up the fact that, users can essentially pick the artist that they like the most and the music they like the most and own a piece of it and then essentially get dividends, from that choice in that music. It makes me think of, Rick Rubin, like the vibe guy. The artist will, go work with him. And he doesn't actually make any music. He just sits there and puts on headphones and listens to it. And he goes, oh, this is the one. That's kind of what it makes me think of. Is you can essentially be like Rick Rubin from your house, with the headphones on, and be like, oh, this artist is gonna blow up. I'm gonna get some of this this token of this music. Have you seen Rick Rubin before?
No, yeah, you're spot on, and that's the cool part about this. It's as to date, only people that have been able to actually invest in like catalogs and artists are either really massive corporations or a few high value, high net worth individuals. That's how it's been, and this is actually basically opening the floodgates to anybody. And that's pretty powerful. And if you think about that, so like right now, we have a couple of our team members are at South by Southwest in Texas. Shout out to Denny, who's there, as well as Christian. And they were talking to some panel speakers who are the musicians as well, and they were talking about what we did and everything. And we've already said this, but it's fun watching people put two and two together. And they went, yeah, cool, that's great, the fans get to do this, but what about people? What about the people that are creating? Like musicians hire producers to make their music, right? They hire a producer to mix it and stuff like that. Well, what if you were to pay part of those IP tokens to your producers, or give if they have credits on a song and then they also have some tokens associated with it, that's value. And so you're actually buying and paying for the best marketing ever. The people that are helping create this thing are going to be pushing it. They're going to want everybody to listen to it because that they're financially incentivized for it to gain a lot of traction and for it to be successful. And so he said that. We've already said that a long time, but watching people see the product for the first time and then start putting the pieces together to create experiences and to utilize their music for more than just music. And it creates, I think Andrew mentioned this, it creates extreme liquidity and it breaks down barriers as far as, you only have buckets of liquidity. No, this breaks down that barrier and allows you to really utilize your music in a whole bunch of different ways. So that's a really cool concept, and people are starting to get it. It's so, if you're not a musician, um, or even actually musicians, a lot of times they don't even understand how their money gets from Spotify to their bank account. So seeing this, there's education involved. But as people get it, you watch this and they go, "Holy cow!" And you can watch their eyes, and it clicks, and they get it, and then they start asking all these questions about, "Well, can I do this and that and that?" And we go, "Yeah, you can. You can build that because we made Lego blocks for you."
It kind of makes me think of, I'm really going into the possibilities of using a technology like NEWM, and also where our space is at now and kind of what we've seen, culturally. If you look at Solana, and we had a little bit of this on Cardano, but not that much. I joined a Twitter space on Solana, and there was a guy at the top, and they were like all marketing this monkey meme coin. And there was like 1,000 people in there, and they were like all working together to market this token that had no actual product or cultural value at all. It's like they were trying to like create the culture around it, and it's like this fake kind of pump and dump culture. And it's like, I seeing that happen kind of shows you what's possible. And I wonder, what would happen if somebody, created something like that, a community of people that are kind of marketing a culture and a vibe that was associated with actually good music, like a good product in a community. And you look at, where, festivals and events, and, all of these people are kind of just paying money into this culture and this idea, to be a part of it. And they get no piece of it, even though they are pushing it out there on their social media. And, look at like, groupies, for example, following, the Grateful Dead all around the country in the United States. And they never had a piece of it. They just loved it. They just made it their life, and they adopted it. And there was, some essentially, banker man, behind the scenes taking value out of that culture and that idea, that was pushing culture as a whole forward, instead of that just going back to the people that were pushing it forward. How do you guys see, NEWM evolving with artists to also, for events as well, the people that are pushing these, artists touring around the world?
Andrew, do you want to speak to that? I know we talked about some physical stuff.
I wanted you to speak on that one. I was coming on to tell you to take that one.
Okay, deal. So I can tell you, just let me start from the top and referencing culture and being it around, like a piece of music. We've long said this, that DAOs or meme coin communities, that many of them have artists in their community. Like, prime example, just because I see somebody's PFP down there, a little snack. I know there's an occasional artist in the snack community. What This is a prime example of how that could be an amazing use case for basically rallying the troops, right? So prime example would be the artist that's in Snack that they all know. They release a single, and the stream tokens, there are 100 million stream tokens per song. It's 100% ownership with 6 decimal places. So we can facilitate high volume artists that have a lot of fan base. They can break it into as small of chunks as they need to, theoretically. But let's say they release that single, and then they give everybody in the community ownership. They give them stream tokens. And at that point, everybody rallies around that, and everybody goes and listens to it, and literally sends the streams to Valhalla. And it starts, you know what I mean? Like, that is literally a fabulous use case, utilizing stream tokens with like a meme coin community. And so that's been something that we've had talks with. Another thing is, I've had talks with artists. There's a guy out on the West Coast who lives in a commune, like it's a collective on the down in Long Beach, and they have a DAO, and they have a band as well, and they want to do a release like that and utilize the stream tokens, the same thing like with the DAO, and give the DAO ownership over the piece of music, etc. So that is just in reference to the first point, that is very doable. It's easy to do right now, and nobody has to ask us permission. They can literally do that right now by using our DSP service. But in reference to experiences for fans and using, stream tokens and other things, let's imagine a world where you now have more than just stream tokens. Like, let's say you have different types of IP. You can actually, like, let's say a world where you have your NEWM app open and you have to like physically geolocate your phone to a location in order to access the ability to airdrop or to receive an NFT or stream tokens or some type of IP tokens, right? So then you have a world where, hey, I went to go see the Grateful Dead on this day at this concert, and only people who were physically there were able to get access to a rare, maybe only 1,000 NFTs of an acoustic version of the song that they played, or maybe even just a recording of the live recording of that actual concert that will never go up onto a streaming platform. And so it'll only exist as a one of 1,000 or one of however many tickets they sold airdrop to people that were physically there. That's the type of user experiences that you're going to be able to see enabled and unlocked in the future with this type of tech. And so, whereas instead of just saying, oh, yeah, I have a t-shirt from that tour, that's all I got. Then you could actually say, no, I actually have a single that was only released. There's only 1,000 copies, and it's an acoustic version, or it's the version that was done on this date. And maybe he changed the lyric that day, or maybe they changed the chord, or maybe they did a shout out in the recording. And you can take, there's so many different ways it can happen, but it's only going to be 1,000 copies. And I got one, and nobody else can even listen to the thing unless they have it. That's a really, really different, unique user experience. And so, then you can also imagine a world to where you can gamify IP tokens. So let's say one single can have you can have a portfolio of IP tokens. And this gets into the DeFi degeneracy type of mindset, but also just DeFi and tokenization of IP, where you can have a portfolio of streaming IP. You can have a portfolio of mechanical tokens. You can have a portfolio of syncs. So that's music, that's to video, right? Things like that. And then basically an artist can say, hey, if you want to be able to buy a percentage of my sync rights for this single, you need to be able to have X amount of stream tokens of this single to unlock the access to even purchase those. And so now you're creating this gamification system to be able to get access to higher value IP tokens. And so that's a really, really cool concept as well. But again, these are all different business models and user experiences that you can build out with just using the Lego blocks that we've already built. So like the tech works for the different types of IP. At that point, it's just different legal contracts, etc. So, but yeah, that's a world that is very real. And I think we're going to see that come to fruition in the next couple of years. But it all starts now with our tech stack that we've already built out and using streaming IP.
Yeah, that's really exciting. The reason I kind of brought up the rallying the troops and culture is just, it'd be really interesting to see a community of people are all marketing, a piece of art that they like, that is a song. Because, to stand up to these large corporations that are the middleman between artists and Spotify, you almost need an army of people that care about you and promote you. Because a new artist isn't going to have the money necessary to, go on a talk show or kind of have this mainstream media, marketing or sponsorship. So, using the rallying the troops method, you can get out there on, algorithms, right? On X and on YouTube, et cetera, or even on Discord, and build a solid community there of people all kind of rallying around. So, from a user's perspective, What can a user do on NEWM right now? You mentioned that you have the app up. The app on Android's been out for a while. Recently you got the app out on iOS. I wanted to say congratulations there. I know it's not easy releasing an app on iOS.
Andrew, do you want to take that?
Yeah. So for end users, fans, etc., there's a couple things you can do. One is listen to the music that Cardano creators have put on chain, and that is done by downloading, installing the app, connecting it to your wallet, and listening to the music that's in your wallet. If you don't have music, you can find some music right away on Drip Drops. There's some free tracks there. You can also go to our record store and purchase tracks and support artists there. So that's a number one thing, is start consuming the music that exists there. Secondly, you can support the project, and you can support the project by purchasing NEWM tokens. So that helps you support the project. And once you have those NEWM tokens, you can use those to purchase the streaming royalty rights. So everything in the NEWM ecosystem flows into the NEWM token itself. That's kind of how we set it up from the beginning. We didn't want it to be just a governance token. So, for example, when, let's say, a song earns some streaming royalties, that comes into the NEWM Foundation as dollars. Those dollars are then used on the open market to purchase NEWM tokens, and then those NEWM tokens are paid out to the wallets that we snapshot that are holding the stream tokens that own that IP royalty rights. So that's kind of how the system works and how the money flows. Everything flows into the NEWM token. And so everything is built around that in the ecosystem. There's a few areas where we haven't finished that out. The one area we haven't yet finished that build out is the distribution service itself. That one you still pay ADA to distribute, but we have plans to convert that over to also where artists themselves will need the NEWM token to distribute. And again, it's all kind of a virtuous cycle. So the artists, as they receive their own royalties, will be incentivized to hold their NEWM token so that they can release more music through the streaming service, and et cetera, et cetera. Fans that receive royalties in NEWM tokens are incentivized to hold those NEWM tokens because they can then use those to purchase more streaming royalties on the marketplace. We just kind of decided we're going to go all in on the NEWM token, and that's how it all works.
So another question for you, Andrew. So it's things like what NEWM is building, like music and records and even albums. Same for projects like book.io and things like that. Music files are not small files, so I assume they're not on the blockchain fully. So I was wondering, where exactly is the music, and you access it through the app and then the NFT for the ownership? Is that how it works?
Yeah, currently the record store NFTs, most of them are on IPFS, I believe. So most of those are created through our partnership with InMaker, and they use IPFS. In the future, we'll be looking at potential partnerships with Iagon or other decentralized storage solutions when we build out our own streaming platform. But right now, the files are held in S3, and then they're distributed out to the streaming platforms themselves. The stream tokens that represent the IP rights, they do not have the full song on them. They just have a 30-second clip. And that's because if you play more than 30 seconds of a song, you have to pay out a royalty on that itself. So the place to listen to those right now is on the streaming platforms, on Spotify, on Amazon, on Apple Music, et cetera, et cetera. and that's how those royalties are generated, is through, you know, your grandma listening to your song where she normally listens to it.
And I do want to point out something, and Andrew briefly touched on this. The IPFS files for the record store music NFTs. We are, Andrew, would you like to briefly talk about what our plans are potentially for the NFTs, to where, you know, currently there is no way anybody has been able to crack a particular tech issue yet? Or you want to not talk about
Yeah,
that?
we can talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to get into dubious speculation territory here, but the issue is around encryption of NFTs and preventing, you know, if you buy an NFT on Cardano right now, a music NFT, anybody can look at the blockchain and technically get your link and listen to that music. And that's fine. Most of the time, people are going to want a good experience, and so the best way to do it is to own the NFT yourself and listen to it on the new map. However, some artists may want there to be a little more control. You know, Book.io has, I don't want to talk about their stuff, but they're working on their own solutions for it. We're also looking to kind of hit a middle ground of encrypting content versus not encrypting content. Again, this is all just on the back of a napkin right now, but the plan is to have the ability for a user to encrypt an NFT that they own, so that what's stored on chain is not accessible by anybody except the wallet. Now, the problem is, once you do that, it becomes nearly impossible to transfer that to somebody else and have them get access to it, but then you lose access to it. And so we're working around some options for figuring out how to facilitate that. And likely it'll put the power in the hands of the owner of the NFT itself. So like, if they want to keep their NFT unencrypted, they could. If they want to encrypt it just for themselves, they could. It's more of an opt-in system versus a centrally controlled DRM system, which some others are currently using right now.
Yeah, if anybody on Cardano says they've cracked this, they have not. They're using a centralized DRM system.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Is this something that you guys plan to? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, in the early days of blockchain, it was like, well, what are the use cases for blockchain? And everybody said, oh, like software licensing and stuff like that. But even today, nobody has cracked that problem of, okay, I own a license to this thing. It's encrypted. How do I transfer it to somebody else? Well, I could share the encryption key, but then technically I still know what the encryption key is. You know, I can't forget something. There's no proof of forgetting. And that's kind of what we're trying to figure out how to build. Go ahead, Ray.
Yeah, I'm letting my mind kind of go with that a little bit, you know, trying to think of a 2-second solution in my head of how to solve that problem. And the first thing my mind comes to is like a smart contract. It's kind of like an account-based smart contract, but is that something that you guys are going to, open source, or is that going to be owned, by the DAO? Is it going to be owned maybe by a company? Because that does seem like a step forward in our entire industry if you guys do, solve that.
Everything we do is open source. So anything, if we solve a technical problem or find a way to do something, like I would want that capability for all NFTs, whether it's just a monkey picture or a piece of music.
We are decentralized and open sourced. That's our ethos.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, there's a million use cases, I think, for the ability to transfer, an encrypted, piece of data, between two different users. So would love to see that. Amazing to see somebody working on that problem. We are at the 45-minute mark here. So anybody tuning in, if you guys have any questions, let us know by leaving a little comment in the bottom right-hand corner. We have a comment. right there. You can also request speaker and come on up and ask your questions directly to Andrew and Ryan here yourself. No problem there. We also have a new feature within Âtrium where if you join our X Spaces, and sometimes we'll put them in YouTube videos or Medium articles or X articles, you'll find hidden codes that give you XP for your profile NFT. We're gearing up to launch mainnet here soon. And, right now we have an incentivized testnet where you can see what we're bringing to mainnet today. We have our smart contracts live in there. 3 of them are live right now. As you get in there, you can mint a profile NFT. You can start leveling it up from engaging with the community like you are right now, or in Discord, or just using the app, like using our staking basket smart contract that allows you to delegate to 50 different single stake pool operators at the same time. We also have Atma staking live. We're releasing new feature, proof of influence, that allows you to, select what profile that in the leaderboard section. So you can earn app right now on the testnet, take that Atma, and this is test Atma, by the way. You can't transfer this. Just take that test Atma and pick your favorite profile that you want to delegate to. I have a profile in there on testnet. You can try it out now by taking that Atma and staking it to me. And this is going to be one of the things that, dictate the algorithm, one day on Âtrium. So get in there, make your profile NFT, start leveling it up, fill out the form. You guys are run out of time before mainnet. Once mainnet comes out, this incentivized testnet is over with. And the code today is actually music. So if you guys already have a profile NFT, you can go into the insert code section and just type in music. We came up with that because of NEWM here, and you guys will get some XP on your profile NFT. So thank you.
So I was wondering, we touched on it a bit earlier, but yeah, I'm curious what's next for NEWM. What are the plans going forward?
I can tell you. Oh, Andrew, I see you.
Yeah, I think for me, like we have development priorities. We also have business priorities. On the business side, I think our highest priority is go-to-market strategy. And that means going out, finding the right relationships with those influencers and or musicians that can take us to the next level. Because right now, very few outside of our little Cardano bubble knows about what NEWM is doing. And so that's kind of what a couple weeks ago, I drove up to Nashville and met with Ryan, and we had some meetings with some pretty big players in the music industry. And that's really what we're trying to do at this stage, is trying to break out of our little Cardano bubble. And so, the trip to Nashville is part of that. We have a team right now at South by Southwest that's, hitting the pavement and trying to push the message of decentralized music to that audience, to the mainstream music community. So yeah, I think in general, NEWM is looking for implementing our go-to-market strategy at this point. We've built enough of the building blocks, enough of the Lego pieces where we're really able to handle that business. So that's where we're at.
Yeah, next 6 months, feature sets in the studio, NEWM Studio. That's album functionality as well as sub accounts, which will allow for labels or managers to go in and manage their artist accounts. Which those are needed feature sets to service that type of scalability and those players in the game. I can tell you our meeting in Nashville, if you're following my Twitter or Andrew's Twitter, you know where we were. It was a great meeting. And I can tell you that talking about our tech and some people might ask, they go, okay, why do you need a token? All the things. Well, I can tell you that when we talk through the whole situation and they realized the entire value went back to the NEWM token, they actually got excited. And these are people that are dealing with large artists. We're talking artists that are grossing, grossing annually 20 million plus that they manage. They got excited for the little people and the independent artists as well, though. For them, they don't care how their music gets out the streaming platforms. They just care it gets out there. They have entire teams dedicated just for each streaming platform to promote stuff. But they saw the business model and they went, oh gosh, this is new revenue sources for us that we originally didn't even really count much as income that we can actually turn into income. And then also they said, well, yeah, this is great, especially for low volume singles for artists that are new. You know, if they're only going to make a couple $1,000 maybe in a year, well, then if it comes into the NEWM platform and if they're early to the ecosystem, as the ecosystem grows, then inherently the NEWM token value increases. And if that's the case, then that's a way for them to exponentially increase their revenue source by being early into the ecosystem. And they said that, not us. And we went and we just sat across the table and we smiled. And we went, exactly. So it's, you know, that's just it's really what we are building, y'all, is so different than just crypto DeFi or lending and borrowing or another automated market maker on a trading dex. You know, like it's totally different. This is real world applications that are literally we're already interacting with the TradFi world. Like that's the thing. So I feel like sometimes we are so far ahead of the curve that even the crypto space has to catch up to what we've been doing. And our Alex, one of our head of marketing, mentioned this. You know, for us internally, we've been working. I know Andrew and I have at least been almost 4 years, doing this, and truly, we haven't. We count this as year four, year four of building, whereas from a front end consumer standpoint, it's like year one. And that's just something to keep in everybody's mind. This is the caveat slash the benefits of building in public, right? Because people get to, you don't see the 10 years of R&D before they release an Xbox, right? You don't see the failed products or things that just don't ever make it. You just see a nice polished introduction to the community. Whereas with people on Web3, it's like playing on hard mode, because you get to see all the building, all the bruises, all the, oh, let's change trajectory, oh, let's do this and that. But that's part of it, and I think that works for our betterment in the long run. So I think we're going to start seeing some really fun things happening this year for NEWM. I think we're going to see other people get it, and I'm going to be really excited as more and more people that are not necessarily musicians, but they just happen to like music, start to quote get it, in the sense that, oh, there's more to this. I can actually have meaningful connections with my artist. I can not just listen to music. I can be a part of the journey of the artist and of a particular piece of music that really resonates with me. You could we are enabling the next person to come in and potentially own 10 or 20% of a next, potential just ridiculously send to Valhalla single that people are going to listen to 50 years down the road, that is still going to be just having millions and millions of streams. That can happen right now. And this is, to me, we have yet to see the full ramifications of the tech stack that we've built. I think this is just the beginning. And I think as it picks up steam and people see things and people start building experiences using our tech, I think it's going to be really, really special. So that's where we're at.
Awesome. We at Âtrium really resonate with a lot of what you said. I mean, first off, the feeling that you get when you're, pitching to somebody and they start connecting the dots themselves and they're like, so wait a minute, is this how it works or is this true? And you're like, yep. And you just kind of shake your head and smile. I love when that happens, especially at conferences. And, from my perspective, this is where the space is going, is like actual things that people can contribute to and market. I think blockchain and social media enables us to collaborate globally, whereas before we couldn't. And, I think that right now our industry is, using this technology to collaborate and market Ponzi schemes instead of like actual things that create value for people's lives. And, I think that this is something that could actually take off. I think that there's people that just really love certain types of music, and they kind of center their entire life around music, and they could kind of work for that artist in a way and collaborate at a global scale, kind of marketing that artist's music or contributing it in some way, and then actually owning a piece of it. I mean, that's what blockchain is for, and what we're seeing it be used for, I think, was pushed forward. Like this industry that we're in now, where we're marketing, these coins that have no actual utility or real world value, is because of the SEC. And the regulatory landscape is changing, and hopefully over the next year or two, we have that clarity where large institutions start to see the value that blockchain provides, that global collaboration, the people all working together, and this stuff gets pushed. And it has been surprising to me that people would rather not own their music. We did have a question I see down below. He's asking, is this released on Android? It is already live on Android. That's correct, right?
My God, they must be trolling us. I'm going to go with that. Yes, it's released on Android. Go download it. I actually call our NEWM app right now the iPod for blockchain, because you literally load it up. As music NFTs make their way into your wallet, they auto-populate into the app. If they leave your wallet, they disappear from the app. So it's a pretty elegant way to consume blockchain music right now. So, and we're also talking about potentially supporting other types, other music from other chains, i.e., maybe Bitcoin ordinals and stuff like that. So that's just another little nugget.
So I think a question that a lot of people would ask is, artists. What's your guys' kind of business development way forward of attracting large artists to see the value of the blockchain and kind of promote this as it is, being good for artists and good for users ultimately?
Well, I'm without getting in too much into the details, the meeting that Andrew came up to Nashville for, that was the big start for that with us, because we're tackling it from both directions. We are everything we have built right now really is independent artist. This is a gold mine for them. It's a great use case, and they need to use this because this is so much better than the alternatives. So that's the first target audience. And then also we want to look for high volume singles, right? So, but also I can tell you, when in our meeting, we literally across the table, they were going, oh yeah, there are 5 massive independent artists right now who they didn't give their masters away here in Nashville. Big 5 big ones that have 20-ish million streams a month on singles, that I know right now, and I need to get them on the phone to talk with them about this. There is also talks about Nashville Guild Writers Association here in town getting behind what we're doing, which is a big deal. So those are just some tidbits of that, and these are things that are in the works. And I have been in Nashville for 3 years building relations with people. It takes time, and in the industry, part of this is it's very relational, and it's not transactional, and it takes a long time to build rapport, to be able to even have conversations. And so that's been part of having boots on the ground here, and why I moved here 3.5 years ago, was partly because of that. So I think we're going to start seeing some fruition for some work being done.
Yeah, there was also some learning I had to do when we took that meeting. So I think the industry is undergoing a bit of a shift as far as the role of labels. Labels traditionally are viewed as the big evil company that comes in and steals all the rights away from the artist. Well, there's been quite a few big names, like Taylor Swift, like John Fogerty, that have gotten their rights back after many years. And so there's been a bit of a shift where up and coming artists don't necessarily want to sign over all their rights to record labels. And so they're spinning up their own record labels and then hiring out some of the services to other umbrella record labels, the bigger guys that manage a bunch of artists. So they're already kind of entering, whether they like it or not, this decentralized world of who owns what IPs at different levels. And, you know, whereas when we first started this project 4 years ago, we thought, oh, well, there's going to be a huge amount of friction between what we're doing and, you know, the industry and the record labels. But the shift is kind of already happening. It's kind of a groundswell movement starting at the artist level on up. You know, the artists are already moving in the direction we've been going for 4 years, which is kind of an eye-opening thing for me to learn when I was up in Nashville.
Yeah, I was wondering about that, because in blockchain we have the tendency to you know, compete with the traditional industries and cut out the middlemen and connect users and creators together with a shorter, yeah, without a middleman. But that takes quite some effort, and yeah, usually there's quite some pushback from the vested parties. I was wondering if you've experienced this yourself as NEWM. Yeah, as you say, the narrative might be shifting for artists already, but have you noticed any pushback from the traditional, yeah, companies that
Yes,
that
and
control everything now?
yes and no. So from the trad companies that control everything right now, like, they are being pushed more and more to just be a service provider to the artist. So in the past, they would see NEWM as like, oh, this is going to take away from what we can do. Well, now this is another tool in their tool belt that they can use to attract the good artists to come to them as a service provider. Like, oh, we can get you on blockchain. You can become not only a big artist, you can become a Web3 artist, and we have the tools to do that for you. So I think we're starting to see a shift in our view of how we treat at least some players in the music industry. Like, I'm just going to say it, Spotify is always going to be the big bad guy, because they're the ones that are kind of coming in and wrecking everything as far as how things worked. And, you know, even the record labels see Spotify as, you know, the big bad people. One of the things that came out of this meeting we had is like, well, we want to be the savior of the music industry. And, you know, they see themselves in that role, and we can be a tool helping them achieve that. And that was just an interesting takeaway I had from the meeting we had.
So to answer your question,
Yeah,
oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying. So to answer your question, yeah, I think if anything, they're looking at us now and going, "Oh, no, we can use." Which again, we've been saying this, but it's been nice to see the people we've been talking about start to put the pieces together themselves. Like even labels, you know, or you know that traditionally do the deals and then have to have a recoupable. They need to make back their initial investments and all that stuff. They're seeing business models to where they can front essentially get their upfront investment back, and that way they're operating in the black as a business. So that's a whole nother part of the equation. But yeah, I think for us, the narrative is actually it's going to be working in our favor, and I think there's a lot of industry players who actually want to be seen in that same light. And to Andrew's point, we provide a pretty elegant and unique way of doing that they like and they see the value in.
I believe it's definitely possible. I mean, if you look at 2021, crypto became trendy and blockchain technology became trendy as well. And, you know, not too many people really understood it at that point. And it got me thinking about, you know, our profile system at Âtrium. You know, we have this smart contract to let these people you know, user profiles that live in Âtrium. You know, people can follow them, they can stake Atma tokens to them. And, you know, right now we're, you know, gearing up to launch mainnet and build these profiles for the people that are here now. You know, as you mentioned, stake pool operators, you know, lending and borrowing protocols, DEXs, etc. But, you know, we need to start envisioning, you know, the future blockchain users that'll be here, and it'll be everyday people, you know, just wanting to listen to some music. And I started thinking about, you know, maybe one day there's an artist in Âtrium that has a profile, and, you know, their new music collection is just shown in a nice tile right there. And, you know, they can, you know, gather followers and drum up interest, you know, directly in Âtrium, and, you know, drive more traffic to their music. But thank you guys for
Absolutely.
being here.
Tons of synergies there, I think. I totally agree.
Because there's a big social component, and pay, you're definitely on, you have a pulse on that. I do think that's important. So totally.
Yeah, well, it's been a great conversation. You know, you guys got me excited about blockchain technology, you know, on this fine Wednesday. So can't say I'm complaining. You know, I'm looking forward to NEWM. You know, make sure you guys send me, you know, send us over at Âtrium some of your new releases. You know, as new big things happen, you know, send them over. We can bring you back on the X Space and, you know, help you with some promotion, because we want to push, you know, good builders out there ultimately. And that's one of the reasons that we're building Âtrium, is to, you know, onboard a bunch of users to Cardano and make it easy for them and push them to great projects building on Cardano. And, you know, I've always been a big fan of NEWM, and you guys particularly, since I met you know, probably 5 years ago now. So, you know, I wish you well. Hope you have a good rest of your Wednesday. Let's stay in touch. And thank you to all the listeners. We do these spaces every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We did this one at 12 because of the time zone change, but we're going to switch it back next week. So thank you guys all for being here. Code Music, if you missed it earlier. And yeah, see you next week. Thank you, Andrew, Stephen, Brian.
Thanks. Good to talk with you guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
See you next week. Bye.